Hey, chillers. Really quick, we wanted to do a special episode, not only to introduce you to Lucas. Say hi,
Hello.
Lucas.
He's sleeping.
But also because this Brian Laundrie, Gabby Petito case is completely just what everybody's talking about. And so we wanted to weigh in. We tried doing a live on our Facebook group recently, and internet issues and all sorts of things. It was the
no.
day that they had discovered somebody who they assumed was Gabby Petito, which of course ended up being Gabby Petito.
Yes.
So really quick, if you have been living under a rock, Gabby Petito and her boyfriend, or her fiance, Brian Laundrie, left for an extended road trip, which isn't their first road trip they've taken together cross country. They were starting hashtag van life. They were, documenting it on social media. And there's body cam footage because there was, when they were in Utah, a domestic dispute that seems to span across a few things. There was a 911 call saying that they had witnessed a man hitting a girl that matched the description of Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito. And then they got pulled over, and there's body cam footage of them driving erratically. And then even though it was reported that a man hit a woman, they still were like, sounds to me like Gabby was actually the person at fault here. And it's complicated. You could go watch the body cam footage. It's interesting. So now a body has been found. It is Gabby Petito, and it is the autopsy confirms that it was homicide. Brian Laundrie is nowhere to be found.
Yep.
So there's some interesting pieces of the timeline that I find just weird. A few days before Gabby Petito was reported missing by her mother because, we'll get into that in a second. A few days before that, Brian flew out of Salt Lake City to his home in Florida for them, and he cleared out a storage locker because they were talking about extending their travels. Okay.
Yeah.
And clearing out a storage locker is going to free up some money every month, right? And then he hopped back on a plane and flew back to Salt Lake City. Shortly after that is when all of this started going down. Now, Gabby's parents stopped hearing from her around the 27th of August of this year, 2021, right? And then he mysteriously appeared back at his home in Florida on September 1st without Gabby. And even though her parents were trying to get a hold of him saying, hey, what's going on? Like, we haven't heard from Gabby. Is everything okay? Is everything okay? He refused to answer. They called in a missing persons report on September 11th. Police showed up at the Laundrie's door, and they were given information for a lawyer. Highly suspect, right?
That's basically, yeah.
Right.
I mean,
there were also suspicious messages.
If you knew what happened to her, just say what happened to her.
Right. Also, though, as soon as Brian returned, his family went on a camping trip. It's like a 3 or 4 day camping trip, and then came back. And neighbors say they witnessed, the family going out on outings. They were riding their bikes outside. Like nothing was wrong, right? Mm-hmm. But Gabby Petito is missing. Nobody knows where she is. And then her body is found in the Grand Teton. Okay. All right. So then Brian Laundrie goes out for a hike on, September 13th, September 11th. And then 3 days later, his parents report him missing.
Which is funny because he was supposed to be under their supervision.
Yeah. Okay. So now.
And his own sister came out and said that he wasn't actually missing.
Right. Well, they went on this camping trip, and then they bought a new camper for it. Like, there's all these little things that are they're weird. Okay. Now, obviously, many, many signs point to it being Brian Laundrie because of how he's behaving. He's essentially on the run from the law. Also, it's been proven that he used a credit card that wasn't his. Everybody's assuming it's Gabby Petito's card. It has not officially come out that it was Gabby Petito's card, but he racked up $1,000 on a credit card that wasn't his between the dates of September 29th and August 1st, August 29th and September 1st. $1,000. Yes. Now, Here's some things I find really weird. There's 2 different reports of people picking him up hitchhiking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why was he hitchhiking? Where did he go? What did he do? He was returned to the van, right?
Yeah.
But what was he doing?
Who freaking knows, honestly? At this point,
To me, that is literally the strangest part of this whole thing is that piece does not match up with anything. There's no reason he should have been out there hitchhiking. How would he have gotten where he was going to begin with?
yeah.
And then, why was he out there? It wasn't anywhere near Gabby Petito's body where it was found. There's no reason for him to have been out and about like that. That's the piece that is boggling my mind. Why would he have been out and why did he need to hitchhike? And where did he go?
Maybe he was looking for a place to dump a body.
He ended up dumping it it was found near where the van was at the campground.
Yeah. But maybe he was looking for a place to dump a body because nobody really knows what happened that night right now. We don't even know. I don't even think we know how she died.
No, that has not been released yet.
We don't know anything because right now everything is being shut down because of the active investigation, also because he's missing, because they don't want to give him any more evidence that they may have against him and stuff. And
right. If he knows and they haven't released it, then
yeah. And like I here's my thing. I am very happy about how quickly this case was solved.
Yep.
Well, not solved necessarily, but how quickly this case hit attention, media attention especially, because you had a lot of people who were actually trying to help.
Yep.
But then you have a lot of the people who were basically doing it for clout, like on TikTok. It got so bad on TikTok because people were basically turning it into a game, essentially. Like, oh, this is a new game, blah, blah, blah. Like, not even, like, totally just disregarding that this is someone's daughter who is missing and possibly dead now, actually confirmed dead and stuff. Like, totally missing that fact. And that was one of the things that really just bugged me in this case, besides the fact that the police automatically wrote Gabby off as the crazy one when it was very obvious from that body cam footage that she was being manipulated and gaslit to an entire extreme.
I mean, he's laughing and she's crying.
Yeah, it's like I know that look. I've had that look.
Right. Same.
I know that look. And that's the thing. And so that's one thing that really just irritated me. Another thing that really irritated me was the quote unquote help. Like the dog to bounty hunter thing. I honestly feel like he really just got back into it to try and keep himself relevant.
No.
Like he got involved to keep himself relevant.
I actually know why he's doing it. He's doing it to promote his new show.
Keep himself relevant. A&E refused to do his new show because he decided to use Gabby's case to pitch the show.
Good.
Keep himself relevant. He would not have done that out of the kindness of his own heart unless there was something in it for him. And like I said, it was a show. Like, A&E denied the show. He's actually being sued by the police department because of getting involved.
So here's the other side of it to me. Now, if he ends up finding Brian Laundrie, yay. Okay. However, he did have, he has some interest in domestic disputes like this because he has experience with his kids, his many, many children.
I get that.
And domestic disputes, right? Okay. So I could see him wanting to get involved, especially because it's high profile at this point. However, and also the other side of that is he is more likely to get tips from people because, there are people who just don't want to talk to the police, who are afraid it's going to come out that they're the ones who gave the tip, and then they end up getting harmed because of it.
See, and I get that, but at the same time, the whole thing that just crushes all that is the fact that he was using it to promote a new show. Yep. He could have done any other case. Any other case.
Literally.
And in fact, and instead, he was using it to promote a new show. And that was my issue.
Then let's also talk about, though, there are people who are really upset because Gabby Petito's case ended up getting all this attention because, white girl, right? Mm-hmm. But I really think that part of the reason it got so much attention is because there was so much stuff that came out before she went missing. So it was easier to try and find her in the hope of finding her alive.
yes and no at the same time. Like, yes and no. Like, yeah, that is true. But also, it is the middle class white girl syndrome. And I'm not going to sit here and say that that's not a thing. That is
It
definitely
is
a
a thing.
reason why her case got skyrocketed. It's because America cares about
Pretty blonde
middle
girls.
class white women who go missing. And I'm not saying white women, I'm saying middle class white women. Because if you are lower class, if you are a sex worker, if you are a drug abuser, if you have anything wrong that doesn't paint you as America's princess, and I'm not saying that's what Gabby was. I'm not saying that's what they was. That's what I'm saying that they try to paint her as. If you don't have it, if you cannot be painted as America's all around person,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to showcase your case. That's why there's so many Indigenous women who have disappeared in the area that Gabby was found that have never gotten any news coverage. That's why there's so many other missing women who have never gotten any news coverage. It's why there's so many people of color who have never gotten news coverage because, or if they do, or like, for example, the Caitlin Akins case. That's one of the reasons why Caitlin hasn't had a lot of news coverage is because, not because her mom hasn't been doing everything that she can, or take Robbie for instance, not because like their parents haven't been doing everything they can to get their names out there. It's because they come from a lower class society and people don't care about them, which is absolutely
It
ridiculous.
is.
It's absolutely
I don't
ridiculous. And
disagree.
as much as I love the fact that Gabby's case was able to get out there, especially because it's able to have such a huge warning to people in domestic violence relationships, like, you need to get the heck out, like, now. It sucks because it's bringing to light how many other cases out there aren't actually getting recognition.
Right.
So,
So let's talk real quick, just because you know me and I love to play devil's advocate. Okay. Let's assume for a minute that Brian didn't do it. Okay, let's just, for funsies, because it blows my mind that anybody might think this, but it could come out this way, right? I mean, we've had cases with weird twists before, right? M. Night Shyamalan to the extreme. Um, let's say he's out there, he decides to go hiking by himself while she works on her little website, right? That just bothers me because I build websites for a living, right? And so he comes back and he finds her gone. Okay. He assumes maybe she ran away, or maybe he steals the van just to kind of stick it to her and drives home and figures she'll find her own way home. Okay. Let's just assume for a second maybe that's what happened. So then he gets back and he's like not wanting to talk to the parents, right? Because he's like, now I did this, this bad thing and I abandoned her and I don't want to be responsible for it, right? So then if he didn't do it, because he's of course claimed that he didn't, he posted on social media that he didn't do it. But there are some weird things, like when you watch the body cam footage, right? Both of the seats in the van have a seat cover.
mm-hmm.
And when you look at the evidence photo of the van, in evidence, it's missing the driver's seat seat cover.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there are claims that the photo that Brian Laundrie posted to social media going, God help me, I'm innocent, in the reflection on the TV, it's not him taking the photo. That's another one I've seen.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just assume that he just abandoned her there thinking that she was fine. She'd find her way back home. Because, pretty white girl, she can hitchhike and she'll be fine or whatever. Right. So then if he didn't do it, who did?
Then that's impossible to answer, because unless she magically ran into the one serial killer out there, or the one person who just wanted to commit murder out there.
Right. Well, there were lots of people camping. Any one of them could have been a serial killer. Any one of them could have just been messed up in the head. Saw her, thought, oh, she's cute, and tried to get with her. And when she denied him, he killed her. Because there are some really crazy people out there doing
But if
van
he's
life.
really innocent, why run? Why run and hide? If you're really, I understand that shit can get misconstrued.
Right.
I get it.
Right.
But obviously, here's the flip side to not having enough evidence. The police have to have a lot of evidence against him right now to be pressing this hard to say that he's.
They want him for the information, and the only warrant out for his arrest is because of credit card fraud.
So then come
because
back.
Gabby's case got so much traction at this point. But here's the other thing that's interesting is now when you look, right, the amount of people out there searching for him in the weeds has reduced. And now, not when it happened, now his parents are out there helping. Not when it happened, not when he went missing. Like weeks
Probably
after
because
he's
they're
gone
hiding
missing.
him.
His parents are out there helping.
Probably because they're hiding him.
More than likely. I really think that the him out on the Appalachian Trail is the most likely thing.
Probably. That thing is long as hell.
Not only that, but he's hiked it before. He knows the area.
Well,
Not
only is that thing long as hell, we talked about that in a previous case. Once you get on that trail, there are hundreds of different ways that you could go. Hundreds of outcomes that will lead you in just about any direction on the United States.
Right, which is why bodies found on the Appalachian Trail are rarely ever solved.
Yeah.
Or found, yeah. But once they're found, they're hardly ever solved because unless it's obvious that somebody was connected to the body, so on and so forth. But so I think that makes the most sense. And I think it's interesting that the manpower has reduced for the search in Florida. And I think that it's because they're secretly looking other places and not reporting it because he's got to have connection.
I honestly think the constant media updates to everything is what's helping him stay hidden. Because, well, if they're looking for me here, then I'm going to go here and stay pretty hidden. Oh, somebody saw me here. Time to get the hell out.
Right. 100%. And that's why there's, you don't find a lot of current updates because, and they're actually broadcasting them out there searching for him in Florida. Like Fox News legitimately has cameras attached to things while they're out there searching. Oh yeah. Well, and they're saying, well, he left his cell phone at home, but did he? Did he not have a burner phone that nobody knows about?
Yeah, he could have gotten a burner.
It's not that hard to stay connected. There are so many different ways.
Oh God, yeah.
So, but I'm curious though about, and if anybody has an answer to this, please let us know in our Facebook group, in the comments below, but where was he hitchhiking from and why was he there? Because to me, I feel like that's a piece that people are ignoring. And to me, it's the most confusing piece. Say hi to Phoebe.
Hi, Phoebe.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that happened right around the time that they say she was potentially killed.
Yeah.
So was he doing it maybe to be seen as an alibi thing?
Probably.
But he was awfully far away.
Yeah. I mean, he could have easily been like, oh, well, we had gotten into a fight, and so I went out for a walk and hitched a ride back.
He could have dumped her body and walked really, really far to be picked up, and he has been, his behavior says I'm guilty, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing is, and I don't know if he really realizes that running and hiding.
I feel like a part of you knows if I decide to run from a high profile case where my fiance was murdered, that's going to show him guilty as hell.
Right.
I'm going to do it anyways. Like,
no, like, and not only that, but I'm sorry, if my significant other goes missing, and maybe it's because we're women, but, and that's why the Chris Watts case was suspicious. That's why the Lacey Peterson case was suspicious, right?
Well,
because of the way that he was behaving. You
know what's really weird? Compare the Chris Watts interview on the news to Brian's interview with the police and the body cam. Same people. Like not same people like that, but it's like that meme. Corporate wants you to find the differences between these two pictures. Those are the same pictures.
Yeah.
Like
right. It's like
it was
the office.
same.
Yeah.
I remember watching this body cam footage and thinking, holy shit, this guy killed his fiance.
Right.
But on the flip side, we do want to give our condolences to Gabby's family and friends because this must have been just absolutely devastating to not only have to deal with their daughter and sister and friend being murdered, but also having to deal with all the people on TikTok and YouTube
And
and
the circus,
Instagram and
yeah, the
stuff.
media circus. And
Yeah,
also,
the media
honestly, though,
circus and
like,
stuff.
I feel bad that anybody has to deal with the media circus, right? But I really like what her parents have done in building the Gabby Petito Foundation.
Oh God, yeah. They have taken their grief and turned it into something that could actually potentially help people. And I actually, on my personal Twitter, I actually follow her family members on my personal Twitter and stuff. And it's just like, and it's like, I don't use Twitter a lot except for the podcast and stuff, but I still follow people and I still keep up on news dates, and that's how I get a lot of news date information. But they're really trying to take this tragedy that has happened, especially to this wonderful girl, and turn it into something that can potentially help people and prevent this from happening again. And so that's
100%.
something that needs to happen. And if that information is available for the foundation, then we will be putting it on our pages and stuff, so that way people can have access to that. And we will also be putting links with this video to the hotline for domestic violence. So, but we do want people to know that regardless of anything that happens, if you are in a situation where something's domestic, even if they're not hitting you, financial control is abuse. Emotional control is abuse.
Mhm.
Manipulation, gaslighting, that is all abuse. And eventually it can go from something that's happening not physical to being dead very, very quickly. And so we do want our listeners to know that if they need help, they need to reach out, and do not be afraid to reach out, because there are people out there who will be willing to help you.
Absolutely. I had a relationship, it's been a number of years ago now, but I fortunately saw the red flags very, very early. And part of the reason I saw the red flags is because I'm into true crime. And so I was like, something about this isn't right. But
Yep.
in the 3.5 months that we were together, he broke up with me 5 different times. And he would storm off, waiting for me to go crying after him. Right? And then come back and be like, oh, okay, let's work through it. Da 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 da. About the 5th time that happened, I was like, I'm really over this. Like, I don't want to play this game anymore. Okay.
Understandable.
So I and the stuff we used to fight about was stupid. Like, so one night I fell asleep while he was in the shower and I was reading my Kindle. So my Kindle obviously turned off. Right.
Yeah.
And he came in and then we started a big fight because he thought that I on purpose pretended to be asleep so I wouldn't have to sleep with him. It turned into a huge fight. He stormed out and left. And I was like, you know what? I'm really over this. I'm really over this makeup breakup. Like, I'm not in high school anymore. I'm in my 30s, and this is ridiculous.
I would be too. Like, I'd be like, bruh. Right. And even if...
So then I pretended to be asleep when he came back in later to try and, like, make up. And then he pretended the next day like none of it ever happened. And I was like, no, we're not playing this game. So I break up with him. And then he turns it into this. I mean, it was a shit show circus is what it was. He was gaslighting, abusive.
Yeah.
It was bad.
It's probably before we became friends.
So anyway, I got out of that as soon as I could. And then I stayed single for quite a while, if I'm being honest. Because I was like, I'm not.
Yeah.
If I'm so gullible to get into this early. No. And then he found another person and shortly after that ended up moving away. And then he married her, I guess. And I'm like, sorry, lady. I have no control over it and I don't even want to be involved. Not even a little bit.
And I mean, like, don't get me wrong, women can be just as abusive as guys.
Oh,
and I really
absolutely.
hate that stigma of like, oh, well, you shouldn't hit a girl. Nah, if a girl hits you first, you have every right to defend yourself.
Right. Doesn't mean you have to rise to her level, but you can defend yourself. Also, though, it happens in friendships too. There are friends who are incredibly abusive as well. So, but anyway, we just wanted to touch base on this because it's obviously a case and people have asked us what we think. It's all over social media. Obviously, we don't want to interfere with the family. We're only talking about what we know because it's been put out there, but we're also trying to stick some of our logic and our discussions into it because the hitchhiking thing he did is weird. The fact that he's running clearly is the thing that's making him look guilty AF. The fact, and like, if it were me in this instance, I probably would have lawyered up as well, but I would have been out there helping search. I would have done what I can.
Not even if you were out there helping search, but being actively available.
Right. but I would have lawyered up because of things like, the Jordan case, the Jordan Brown case that we'll be discussing in this week's episode, right? Like, I would have lawyered up because sometimes you say something and they end up taking it out of context.
Yep.
It happens. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but it happens. So I would have lawyered up as well, but I also would have been actively out there trying to help and search and be part of it, because otherwise, yeah, you'll look guilty AF.
And homie looks guilty.
Yeah.
And again, I'm assuming that the police have a lot more evidence against him that they're not obviously putting out there. So
right now, though, it's just the fact that he's running, and he's at this point the only person that knows what happened to her.
And if he was innocent, come forward and clear your name.
Right. Lawyer up, sure, but at least tell the story of the last time that you saw her and clear your name. Give them all the stuff that shows that you're innocent.
Yep.
And if you have to do that through your lawyer, then do it through, like, show up, be there, but let your lawyer do all the talking, fine.
Yeah.
But not giving anything and really not showing any sympathy either.
Oh, yeah. Like, her family hasn't even showed any sympathy at all either. I mean, his family hasn't showed any sympathy at all. Like,
except
you would
the
think
sister.
this
The
girl
sister's
that was
mad.
supposed to be a part of your family, you would be grieving just as much as her family is.
Right.
And like I said, family grieves in different ways. And obviously, if your son is accused of murdering their daughter, you may not want to be involved. But at the same time, they're just being cold about it.
Yeah.
And that's the issue.
It is. And that's what makes, if anything else, if any of the Laundrie family, if Brian Laundrie, if any of those people happen to see this, highly doubt it'll happen. But if they do, guys, that's why everybody thinks you're guilty. Because you're acting like you don't care.
Yep.
And jumping in 3 weeks after your son's gone missing to look for him, going, we're worried he might be hurting himself, but you're not actively searching for him when you're worried that he's going to hurt himself? Guys, that's not normal. That's not normal behavior. So, anyway, we'd love to know what you guys think. Obviously, Brian is showing that he's behaving as though he's guilty. But yeah. I'd really be interested in hearing everybody's thoughts, like, what if? You know, like, let's do that Marvel thing. Like, what if? What if Brian didn't do it? I'm just interested to hear what everybody thinks.
Meanwhile, you have me over here, dude's guilty as shit.
Well, and I'm not disagreeing, because he is acting like he's guilty. But you also know me. I like to play devil's advocate. What if he didn't? Let's take a minute and consider that for just a millisecond. What if he didn't? Then who did? And what would have happened? Because I feel like they're putting all their eggs in the Brian Laundrie basket. That's funny, Brian Laundrie basket. For obvious reasons, because of the way he's behaving. However, him running is putting more focus on that rather than going, well, all right, but what if he didn't?
Yeah.
And not having that focus even a little on what if he didn't is potentially letting somebody else get away if he didn't. Big if, but let's put that into reality really quickly, because if he didn't, if the metaphysical if, then whoever did do it is still out there and nobody's looking at them, because all the focus is on Brian Laundrie, because they're putting all their eggs in that basket. Anyway, I would be very interested to hear in the comments below, if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're watching this on Facebook.
If you're listening to this.
If you're listening, I don't think there's a place for comments, but pop over to our Facebook group and tell us. We would really be interested to hear if Brian Laundrie didn't do it. If. Highly doubtful, but if. Who did? And why? What's the story if Brian Laundrie didn't do it?
Thank you for listening to True Crime and Chill. For more information, including case notes, photos, and sources, please visit our website at truecrimeandchill.com. You can also stay connected with us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Look for new episodes from us each week on Tuesday.